Hello, everyone. My name is Kazuo Wang. My pronoun is she, her, hers. Thank you for joining Freedom Inc. tonight. In celebration of Women's History Month, Freedom Inc. is a nonprofit organization in Madison, Wisconsin, and we provide service for Black, Southeast Asian victims and survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault. We also built power in our community through community engagement and mutual aid. Tonight we have an amazing panel of heroes of us to talk about Southeast Asian revelation Sheroes. But first, let me introduce our moderator. Her name is Kayane. Kayane is a social justice advocate who built and lead community development effort in the U.S. and in Asia. And I've been known Kayane for 16 years now. I've known Kayane by I'm the Hmong move from Thailand in 2004, and I knew her when she came into our village, and then helping us out. And since I work in Freedom Inc., I know that I actually found out that she's the one who's the lead of getting us here, and I'm just so impressed. And she's one of my role model and hero for me. And she's not only working on this position for not 16 years that I know her, but it's more than 20 years that she's been working with nonprofit organization as a leader and helping refugees and immigrants, not only in the US, but nationally and globally. We will drop her bios here, and you guys can go and take a look at her bios.
Thank you so much, Shiro. I didn't realize it was you. I'm so happy to see you again, and I'm so pleased that our paths have crossed in the past. So thank you so much for introducing me, and it really warms my heart that you are doing well and that you are living in this country with us as well too. So again, as Shiro said, I am the moderator for tonight's very important event. I am so honored to be a part of this event, and we're kicking off the March, which is Women's History Month in the United States. And when I was living in Asia, we called it International Women's Month. And so no matter where you are, we're celebrating women. And I'm so pleased to have been invited to be a part of this really important discussion today. We're gonna start in a few minutes, but I wanted to begin by just really introducing our panelists for that's gonna come up in a few minutes. While I do that, I hope that you'll pay attention to the screen. As you know, March is Women's History Month, and we're dedicating, which is dedicated to highlighting and celebrating women and their contributions across the nation. And we're not only celebrating their victories and triumphs, but also their struggles. And so we do have a panel of really amazing people and leaders who I am so honored to call my friends. So I'm going to read their bio, and
Kayane, you are mute.
Okay, should I start all over again?
Yeah, you should.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna start all over again, and I want to start the panel by introducing Boto Orebe. She is the executive and network director of the Coalition of Asian American Leaders. Bo is the co-founder of this organization. It's a network organization that brings Asian American leaders from across sectors, generations, and ethnicities together to connect, learn, and act together to improve the lives of community. She has extensive leadership experience, having spent most of her career building community-centered and asset-based solutions that push for meaningful systemic change. Before joining CAL, she was Senior Director at Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders in Philanthropy, leading their social justice philanthropy work. She has also served in executive roles within local and national nonprofits and is co-founder of the Building More Philanthropy with Purpose Giving Circle, Asian Pacific Institute on Gender-Based Violence, Red Green Rivers, Building Our Future, a global community campaign, and Hmong Women Achieving Together. Most recently, she received the Facing Race Award, was named Minnesota Business Magazine's Real Power 50, Twin Cities Business Magazine's 100 People to Know, and named a Bush Fellow in 2019. She is one of the few people in Minnesota with the honor of having the same day named after her in both the city of St. Paul and in the state of Minnesota. And I want to tell you that I want to read all their bios, every sentence, because these women have accomplished so much, and so I want you to know what they do, and I'm not going to gloss over their resume. So that was Bo. The next panelist is Taya Chong. Taya Chong is a co-founder and executive director of the Mekong NYC. She was born in Cambodia during the fall of the Khmer Rouge regime. Chai and her family sought refuge in refugee camps in Thailand and the Philippines before making their way to the United States. After a refugee resettlement program abandoned her extended family, along with thousands of other Cambodians and Vietnamese in urban poverty in the Bronx, she began to organize her community against institutionalized oppression. When Chaya was 16, she became a tutor in a pilot program run by CAV, one of the first organizations in America to mobilize Asian immigrant communities against the institutionalized violence of urban poverty, worker exploitation, police brutality, and INS detention and deportation. Her summer internship soon turned into a full-time job as she became staff director of CAV's new youth leadership project, taking on slumlords, overcrowded classrooms, and cutbacks in translation services at public assistance centers and local health clinics. Chaya harnesses the energy of the young in a community that has lost much of its adult generation. They would also begin to organize the adults as well as other youth to fight for justice. In 2012, Chaya co-founded Mekong NYC, a community-based organization in the Bronx, empowering the Cambodian and Vietnamese community through arts, culture, community organizing, and advocacy. She is currently part of the Movement to End Violence cohort, and Chai is a mother of 3. The next is the one and only Kazuo Wang. She is the founder and co-executive director of Freedom Inc., and also executive director of Freedom Action Now. She never sleeps. Kazuo is a Hmong refugee who was born in Laos and raised in Madison, Wisconsin. She has dedicated the majority of her life to ending gender-based violence. Her advocacy started when she was 16 years old, assisting and housing at-risk teens and challenging abusive gender norms within her community. She is a strong believer that those who are most deeply impacted must be at the forefront of the movement and must have opportunities and resources to advocate for themselves and their own stories. In the past 20 years, Kazuo has spent her life working to build collective power and social change within the Southeast Asian and Black communities. She was recognized as a champion of change at the White House during Domestic Violence Awareness Month in 2011 and was part of Novo's Move to End Violence 4th Leadership Cohort. In 2020, she was named one of the 20 women of color in politics to watch in 2020 by the She the People. She is a co-founder of Building Our Future, a global feminist Hmong movement that works to change traditional practices, behaviors, and beliefs that contribute to gender-based violence within Hmong communities. Kazuo is also a co-owner and founder of Red Green Rivers, a social enterprise that works with women and girl artisans from the Mekong region in Southeast Asia. She helped to co-found Southeast Asian Freedom Inc., national network of grassroots and social justice organizations, co-founder of Binjiao Giving Circle, and a co-founder of Black, Brown Women of Color Coalition. And as if that's not enough, Kazuo is a daughter, mother, artist, and organizer. Her first love is the movement. And last but not least, Zhong Mua is the director of youth organizing at Freedom Inc. Zhong is a queer femme Hmong woman born and raised in Wisconsin, proud puppy parent of Mochi. In 2016, Zhong co-organized the U.S. Hmong LGBTQ delegation to attend the first Global Hmong Women's Summit in Chiang Mai, Thailand, where over 100 Hmong women and allies convened to discuss what it would look like to build a future free of gender-based violence. Zhong has worked on gender-based violence, queer, and youth justice issues since the age of 16. Zhong introduces Black and Southeast Asian youth to social justice movements through direct services, leadership development, and community organizing with innovative art, music, and dance programming. Her passion for youth justice has led her to organize on the issue of policing in schools and the criminalization of young people of color. Through her work, she hopes to not only transform herself, but her community in raising the visibility of queer, trans, Black, and Southeast Asian leadership and liberation. And I know that if we were in the audience, all of you would stand up and help me welcome them with a round of warm applause, right? So can we have all of them on the screen, please? I wanted to help you all go through that journey. How do you like that? All the photographs of you from childhood to adulthood. And I do this purposely because we always see you as just amazing leaders, but we don't know your journey. And all of us started off as young children with hopes and dreams and aspirations. Some of us are beauty queens, some of us are volleyball players, some of us are dancers, world travelers, and some of us are dance teachers, right? And so I wanted to just, lay that ground. I wanted to first read your Bible because I'm always inspired and moved by your commitment to your community, the transformative work that you're doing, leading organizations that are changing people's lives. And you're not only leaders, but you're my friend. And so with that said, I want to kick this off by handing it over to Kazuo to tell us about the Shiro project. This is not only for March, which is Women's International Month or Women's Month, but it's also the Shiro project that is led by Kazuo and Freedom Inc. And so Kazuo, can you tell us a little bit about this project, what you intended to do, why you're doing it, and then we're going to go into the juicy conversation that we're going to have with the rest of the leaders, okay? And look at them, they're so glamorous on the screen. So welcome everyone. And if you have something that you want to say or shout out to all of them, please put in a comment if you're watching from Facebook Live or whatever venue you're doing. So Kazuo, take it away. Tell us a little bit about the Shiro project.
Definitely. Good evening, everyone. And everybody looks so beautiful. So the Shiro project, the Southeast Asian Liberation Shiro project came about maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago. If you all know me, I dream of something and then it takes me years to really put it into practice. And then, so it starts out as a vision. What happened was, growing up, I knew about heroes. And in my community, those heroes looked like my dad. And those stories of heroes in our community was my dad. But the real hero in my life was my mom. And so I never saw anybody as a hero except for my mom. And so she was my hero, my Shiro. And then growing up also in a very patriarchal society, I always, when there was issues, we would always go to male leaders. And it wasn't until my work in the domestic violence and sexual assault world when there were practices that were practiced by the male leadership in my community, and I thought that was harmful to community. And when they weren't addressing that, one of the solutions that I thought of was, what if we created new leadership? What if the moral compass that has been guiding us for the last how many ever years isn't working for us? What if women came up with a new moral compass? And so that really got me to start thinking, what if we became the leaders that we were trying to follow? And so over the years, that's how I've been thinking about leadership. And then, I've always grew up learning about other Sheroes from other communities. and then, you know, learned to love so many Asian American, Black feminists, Asian American feminists, and wearing their T-shirt and wearing their faces on my T-shirt. And one day I was just thinking, what if, because those Sheroes, they were Sheroes, but and even if they looked like me, they didn't have the same narrative. And so I really thought about that. I said, what if young Southeast Asian girls and women got to wear T-shirts that looked like them and had narratives that reflected them? And then I went even further and I said, what if these Sheroes could love each other across cultural lines? And so really thinking about my friend and my comrade Chaya. And I said, I want every Hmong girl growing up to know Chaya and to love her like I love her and to follow her like I would follow her. And I want Khmer girls and Khmer women to also know Bo's story and to love Bo and to follow Bo. And so really started this conversation in this project of Sheroes. And so we want to present to you all. We have T-shirts, and we are launching our T-shirt, Shiro T-Shirts. And you can look, there's a link to that. And so there are 4 T-shirts, and this is just the first batch of our Sheroes. And I'd like to do this and feature other Sheroes, Southeast Asian Sheroes. And I think it's important that the world know that we're not just leaders in our community, but we want you to embrace our leadership throughout your communities too, and to learn what we've done. And so these T-shirts you can order right here on this link. And all of the proceeds will go back to the organizations. And yeah, so we're launching this next week or today. So we're launching it today. But like I said, it's been a project in the works for many years.
Thank you so much, Kazuo. Anything that you think about, you can achieve. And so I'm so happy that I'm a part of this dialogue today. And so we will go back and talk a little bit about the T-shirts, but just to kind of do a little icebreaker, I wanted to go around one round to ask all of you, each of you, share something personal, something that not many people typically know about you, because we all know you as fantastic leaders and so forth, and you're always posting provocative stuff on social media, getting haters sometimes, but lots of love from all of us. But what is something about you that you want all of us to know? I mean, tonight I want to talk about your whole self, right? Not just about your leadership, but you are women, you are leaders, you are mothers, right? You are global travelers and community transforming communities. And so let's start alphabetically. Bo, why don't you go first? Tell us something that you want others to know that we don't know. Any dark, deep secrets?
That's what
Fun secrets.
You know, I'm pretty out there, so I don't know that there's any secrets unless somebody knows a secret about me. But yeah, I mean, you know, I feel like I think sometimes when we're in the work, people just see us in the work and they don't know that we have families. I have a family of siblings, my sisters that I love, and a brother, and a large family of cousins and things that I really enjoy spending time with. And so, that's a big part of my life, is where I'm spending a lot of my time. But I also love just connecting with, obviously, all the women here, but spend a lot of time with women in different communities. And I find so much joy and energy from just sitting with people. So, and I love to travel. So I will like go on a whim if you are up for it. I feel like before COVID, I was always trying to think of how to get out of town. So I was constantly like, who wants to go here? And, so that brings me a lot of joy. I feel great privilege to be able to do that, but also just feel, really grateful to be surrounded by family and friends and, but also just being in the work with everyone. So
let me help you a little bit, Bo. We saw a picture of you from childhood to now, and your whole youth was at a volleyball court. you've been inducted to some Hall of Fame. Tell us about that first, and then we'll move on to the next person, because Bo is an introvert, and so she never likes to tell us the juicy stuff about her, but we all know that she's actually an athlete. She's a natural athlete. So tell us a little bit about
Yes.
your volleyball days, and who were you hating on at that time? I was scared of Bo because Bo and her sisters were also and they were very serious about volleyball, and they never smiled. So I was always afraid of her until I met her, and she's like, oh, she was actually really nice. So just 1 or 2 words about your volleyball days, Bo.
Sure. I spent my youth playing volleyball. Really, it was an escape. And I just found, like a lot of freedom and liberation doing it. And so, yes, and I feel like it was something that I was good at, right? I didn't intentionally seek it out, but when I started to play, I was pretty good at it. And then my sisters played, so we were constantly playing. And yes, Gaying, at that time, if you play volleyball, you're considered a palai, right? That's why you didn't hang out with me, because Gaying was like, she was very prestigious and, proper, unlike us on the courts, all sunburned and things. So, but yes, I was the first Hmong woman inducted to the Volleyball Hall of Fame. So I am, it's nice to get. I guess people paid attention. I never really thought they did. But I think what's interesting about that is when I was playing volleyball, people only saw me on the volleyball court. But, you remember when I was playing volleyball, I was already working at Wall, and even when I was at HND, I already came back to play volleyball during July 4th and things, and people didn't even make the connection sometimes that I was the same person, right?
Exactly. And I think part of that is that you guys were very competitive. I think you won first place for 9 years or something like that, and nobody, beat you guys. So I just want to applaud you, and I'm so happy that I'm, part of the family now, and I love all you and your sisters as well too. So let's go to Taya. Taya, I only met you a few years ago, but you and I are kindred spirits, right? And so tell everybody, but tell me too, something that people don't normally know you in the Khmer community too, but that you now want to reveal to them.
Oh my God, Kaying, this is like Kaying after dark or something. I'm feeling this. So just so you know.
Kaying at night, yes.
Yes, Kaying at night. I'm pretty open, people see me like I come as it is, like I cry when I want to cry, I laugh when I want to laugh. I'll yell at you when I need to yell at you. So there's no hiding that. I know that folks like always says, like if I'm in particularly like, in meetings is one thing, but now like we're in the Zoom world and like they always, my comrades and Maycon and everybody else, my peoples are always like your face. Watch your face because your face tells everything. If Chaya is upset, you'll see it in Chaya's face. And so I think that's been that I'm always like my emotions, I wear my emotions on my face, and I know people and with that I also like, and Kazuo actually reminded of me of this, which is like I also forgive very quickly. And, and she's like, well, the 99% of you is not forgiving, so like you should tap into that. And so people don't know that I'm the oldest granddaughter as well. I came here, my grandfather who had 11 kids. 10 survived the Khmer Rouge regime. So I have tens of thousands of cousins. So everywhere I go, I have family, whether it's first cousin, second cousin. And so as we travel the world, as you, Kaying and Zhong and Bo, when we do that together, because Kazuo and I have, Kazuo know everywhere I go, I know somebody. Like this, the freakiest thing. Like we were driving in the street of Hawaii, and like all of a sudden we're like, oh, stop the car. I know that person. And so to have so many family, but also just people that really love you. Yes, and I can't wait to travel the world with you all. But another thing is that I think about people know I'm a good cook, but people don't know that I actually are very meticulous around cooking because so for example, if one year I was infatuated with Korean food and I would learn, like that's all I cooked and I've mastered it now. So anytime I see a food that that I enjoy and I get into it, and like I could really cook. Like, this is not like bigging myself up, or maybe just a little bit, but like if I learn a cuisine, like I really do it right. So right now, folks be hating on me. There's certain people, but I really love Ghanaian food. So like I've been cooking jollof rice, and like I cook it and people don't even know that it's a Cambodian woman cooking it. And being married to a Puerto Rican, I know how to make Puerto Rican food. I know how to make pateles, maybe better than some folks, just saying. So that's a little bit about things
Thank
that
you,
people
Chaya.
don't know.
Yeah, Chaya does love food, and I've seen Chaya in 5-star hotel rooms where, yeah, you and your friends go and pick up these stinky shrimp paste, and we're all eating it with fruits, and I just love it. I feel like we're at home, right? When we go to conferences, we miss our food. So, thank you, Chaya. Next, I'm gonna go to Kazuo. We're going alphabetically. So, Kazuo, tell us something about you that nobody else knows. Actually, I was thinking a lot of people know a lot about you, but
yeah,
yes.
people know a lot. Good. I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty open. I give me a hint. Before I knew what feminism was, I was in a pageant. So I don't know. People look at that and like, what? What about feminism? Well, we didn't have feminism then. And so I entered a beauty pageant and won. So maybe that's something. Oh, I also played volleyball. And if you thought Bo was mean, Bo thinks I'm mean. So I was really a mean volleyball player.
Let's just say Kazuo and I were on the courts, and I've seen her fight, so I know this.
It's not mean, it's competitive, right? Sportspersonship.
Okay, one thing people don't know about me is I actually can fight, and I'm not afraid to fight if I need to.
And the most recent fight you had was in Paris, right? When somebody tried to steal from your friend. And so I believe, Kazuo, I haven't seen it, but I've heard about it. So.
Oh yeah, somebody tried to rob my friend, and I jumped him, threw him on the ground, and then everybody was like, even the robber was like in shock and ran. Yeah.
So thank you so much. Last is Zhong. Tell us something about you. You look like a princess tonight, Zhong. Tell us about yourself.
Yeah. First off, I'm so honored to be among legends. So thank you. But yeah, something about myself. I think as a kid, I was a huge musical theater geek. So I actually did musical theater. I don't know why they let me on the stage, because I actually can't sing and act like that. And so for a period of my life, I thought that I wanted to become an actress. Yeah. So I very much enjoy going to like the theater and following musicals and watching musicals. So if anybody enjoys that, let me know.
Well, and you're a dance teacher for young children, and your makeup is always perfect, no matter what time of day, no matter if we're at a rally, protest, or on a beach. So I want to say, I want to look like you someday. Okay, so.
She was doing security and she was looking beautiful. I'm like, who does security and look like this at a rally? We're all sweating, and Jean's like this doing security.
We need your makeup secrets. Well, I want to turn to the work that you do to set the context a little bit. And, a lot of times we're talking to our friends, we're in our bubbles, and we're talking about social justice movement, we're talking about liberation. I want you to define that for us a little bit. What are you trying to liberate, right? And what does liberation mean to you? And let's start with those T-shirts, right? So if we can put the T-shirts up. Bo, this time I'm going to start with Kazuo, because you guys know why? I went to look at your profile pictures, and guess who has the most profile pictures? Kazuo. She has 161. Next is Bo. She has 88 profile photographs. Zhong has 65. I'm surprised, because Zhong, you're the generation that should be like doing selfie constantly. And then Chaya, you only have 28. So I wanted to figure out who I should go to, so I decided to go to look at your profile pictures, and Kazuo, you won. So let's look at your T-shirt, and all the T-shirts actually, and tell us why you chose that quote, and then the context of your work a little bit too along that. So Kazuo's is If belong to a culture means belong to a man, then you will always be looking for a home. Why did you choose this one?
So I think growing up, we were conditioned to believe that you're conditioned to be a good wife, and to find a husband and to create a family. And so when by the time I was 30, I hadn't created that, then it was known that I did not have a community, did not have a home to go to. And so I've always known that if in fact it was marriage that was going to create a home for me or a sense of belonging, that I was never going to find it, and that I had to find home within myself. And that in fact, if I had followed my culture's guideline of what home and being whole and being happy was around marriage, that I would always be looking. And so I chose this because I feel like you don't need to be married. You don't need to follow these strict cultural guidelines to be home. And so that's why I chose that.
And so maybe tie that to your work a little bit. You do a lot of work on gender-based violence and just redefining what patriarchy could look like, right? So can you tie that in a little bit?
Sure. Some of the things that people don't know about me is that I actually started my movement work through domestic violence and sexual assault work. And so for years, I was an advocate. And for years, I worked on the homicide and suicides of Hmong women. And in fact, became the only person who felt not scared to address the community around these issues. And so being one of the very first to speak out about that. The other piece is that when I started Freedom Inc., it was a gender-based violence organization. And in fact, the community saw me as an enemy to the community. They saw me as somebody who was breaking up Hmong families and Hmong homes. And so I've been doing that for a long time. And I think that throughout the years, I've learned to be fierce, and I've learned to really look at everything through the lens of women and girls. And in addition to that, like always addressing the root causes of violence against women and girls and queer folks. And so that's been the pretty much the focal point of how I've come into movement. And so I've been doing that for about 20 years. Also, what people don't know about my work is that when trafficking did not fit what was happening in the Hmong community or the Southeast Asian community, I was part of a cohort that recreated terminology called abusive international marriage, which is now mainstreamed and people use throughout to help my people redefine what was happening to them. And so that's been the gist of my gender justice work. And in addition to that, publicly speaking out against the murdering of Hmong victims for the last 20 years. And so those are the kind of things that I think people don't generally know about what I do.
That's great. Thank you so much, Kazuo. And I've known you for a long time, and you're very, you are very principled about the gender-based violence and ending gender-based violence and gender justice and creating gender justice. The second place profile with the most profile is Bo. Bo, let's look at your quote here, if I can get it on the screen. You say, as you do the work, you can't just show up on the surface. Your roots have to deepen. What do you mean by this, Bo?
Yeah, I think simply, well, first, I mean, I hope that all of us are rooted somewhere, and that folks understand that you were born with everything you need to be the kind of leader that you want to be, right? But sometimes I think through systemic oppression or just life experiences, lack of access and things like that, we start to believe that we are not equipped, right? And then we take on that so deeply that we need to learn. And when we learn and we do the work, sometimes we don't realize that we were already resilient and powerful, and that embody in us are generations of wisdom, right? So for me, I think part of the movement work is really just that it's not just superficial, not just about you showing up, but you have to actually deeply root yourself so that you can spend and be able to sustain and stay in movement work, because the things that we are fighting against, they don't get better overnight, right? And it's not enough to just show up one day, although we welcome that. You have to be in it for the long haul, and being able to be in it, just like trees, the deeper your roots, the stronger you are on on the surface, right? Because if you weren't, then you would fall over when strong winds blow and those types of things. So for me, that's been really central to the way that I see myself, is really having deep roots in order to be able to do the work. And so I just believe that people have that, and I want them to invest in themselves and to invest in that, because it will make them more, sustainable and restorative and healthy folks who show up in movement work. So that's simple.
I want to follow up with something, Bo, because in our community, we do have a lot of people that do show up, right? But they show up once and then they're gone, or they'll show up because they are leading some work and then that's it. But so what is the difference between just showing up once and movement? I mean, movement is a word that we use and a lot of people use loosely, but what does it mean to really be in movement, right?
Well, I think movements represents everybody, right? Like, it's about being able to transform not just ourselves. It's not a process where you learn a lesson and then you think that you intellectualize it and you can just teach it to somebody. You have to be able to create the same condition for everybody else, right? And the same value. And I think when we are born into systems that are oppressive and afford privilege and power to certain segments, whether it's men or white people or, rich people, it means that those conditions don't go away overnight. And it means that you can act in a moment where you are personally impacted, but how do you stay in it so that you care enough to keep doing it regardless of whether it personally impacts you, right? And I think that's what movement means, is that we don't always have to only do it when it impacts us. We have to be there because we know that it's not good enough for everyone else, right? That some people are still left behind, that some people are still suffering. And so as long as the human condition is not improved for everyone, we cannot be satisfied. And that means that it really is a lifelong journey and commitment, and you have to have conviction and do that. And so I'm not saying this is your only work. Many movement leaders don't just do, they're not like just like us where you're doing it, right? You can be in any sector, but you can be a movement leader. And I think sometimes people think that movement leaders are people who are willing to not be in jobs where they have expertise. And an engineer can be a movement leader so long as they have conviction and they understand that they can come and be, a part of something that is greater than them to cause change for everyone else. So, I've learned that, and you and I have known each other for so long, and look how many people are still with us, right? We've known each other for so long, and I think we can only count on our hands the number of people who maybe started with us and are still not here. Not because leaders don't need rest, they can rest, but I do think that you also recognize that for some people, it really is just a moment, right?
Yeah. Thank you for those, words of wisdom, because movements takes decades, as I learned from you all, and that, you can't just show up once and think that you've done your part and that the world has changed and you can lead, right? So the next person is Zhong. Can we take a look at Zhong's T-shirt and what she said? And Zhong, you said, we knew justice for us as queer people was going to be in our communities. What does that mean?
Yeah, I think far too often, right? I think around working with myself, right? And also with other queer and trans folks of color, I think the one narrative we always hear is that we don't quite fit in our community because of homophobia and transphobia. but we also don't fit in with mainstream white queer communities because of racism, right? And I think when I kept on hearing that, and I really was thinking about my work and where I actually wanted to invest my energy and space in, and also exactly like with what Bo said, is like with knowing that this is beyond me and that there's other people, how am I actually going to create space and community and leaders? And that it actually needed to be with my own folks. And that actually, like, if we're really talking about justice and change and transformation, then there actually has to be a commitment to building up power in our own communities, because ain't nobody else outside of your community is going to give you that power. So for me, it was really about that, around like, not only am I queer, I'm also Hmong, I'm Southeast Asian. So I actually need to be organizing in this community, fighting and really centering, right, that those pieces of me, right, because I'm not just queer. So for me, it was really around that, and seeing also this pattern where I think a lot of queer and trans Hmong folks leave our small towns to go to bigger cities, where, you know, the population of queer folks are a lot higher, which is great because we're trying to find community, but yet we're still not finding community because, again, there's those pieces of us around race and ethnicity, right, that is not being met, right? So how am I actually thinking about right, doing movement work and organizing and building people in a way that's actually going to feel holistic, and in a way that's actually going to make sure that people can show up as their full self, right? Fully, right? In their gender, in their sexuality, in their race and ethnicity.
That's fantastic, Zhong. And you know, I later I'm gonna follow up with all of you, but I want to give Chaya a chance to talk, and then see if the audience has any questions that they want to also raise here. And if not, then we're just gonna continue the conversation. But Chaya, let's look at your T-shirt as well too, and I want to see what you said. And so you say, building and loving our Khmer community is an act of resistance. And I want to say that from Kazuo, I learned that you are the mother of Khmer liberation movement. And so tell me about what that looks like. What does it mean? I know you're being very humble and saying, no, I'm not, but we know you are. And so tell us a little bit about what that means, right?
It is an honor to hear those words come out of your mouth, Kaying. So yes, own that shit, right? So like I tell myself all the time, and I think part of being a Shiro is really owning our power, you know. And so I really appreciate the words and you, Kaying, Shiro yourself, you know. And I think one thing that I've learned as being with you all is that, you know, we always teach each other to love the people we love, right? And so I really appreciate that. So like, I love Jean, Kaying, Bo before I even met them, because Kazuo was like, these are my people, you know? And so, you know, sometimes I'd be feeling like I'm Hmong in that sense, you know, because there is a real sisterhood. So thank you for that. I think what comes to mind, I think when I talk about this is because of my people's experience. And I think a lot of us who, you know, in Southeast Asia, you know, witnessed the killing of our siblings and witnessed the torture and rape of our women and men. And it was just the people that looked like you, right? So like, people often tell me, what does resiliency look like in your community? Why are your people so resilient? And, you know, I've come to a place 20 years in this work and was like, actually resiliency, you know, by definition, white folks' definition, is like the ability to bounce back, right? So like, and I think for me, working in the community for so many years with our elders, with our men particularly, you know, especially the deportation work, you know, like that part of us undoing the trauma that our people experienced, that was created at the hand of imperialism, but also each other, you know, the Khmer Rouge regime, that building and loving is an act of resistance. So I'm not going to walk away from my community when, you know, this man like invited this white woman to a circle before me. I'm going to make, you know, I'm going to go and build with people. And I think also that the that we don't see that love and building is an act of resistance, that you don't need to be on the streets all the time. I'm getting old. I don't know if y'all want to be in the street, but I will be in the streets. But that the work that we do, the temple, in our homes, with each other, is an act of resistance every day. So we are building movement in ways that I don't think we ever recognize. As like, people always say, why are you always into politics, Chaya? And I'm like, and that's the biggest eye roll that I give to people in my community, because I'm like, politics is why you don't have your diabetes medicine. Why were you like working in factories long hours? And so how do you not get involved in politics? It is about my life, your life, and the people I love life, right? And so so that's sort of why, like, this quote really for me is dear, because it is a calling and a reminder that the real work is actually the love, right, that we build together, in the community that we build together. So even tonight, like, I feel probably as Hmong as you do, or you feel as Cambodian as I do, because you understand that part of the love that we want to build and the love we have for our community unites all of us. Yeah, so that's sort of why the quote came to be.
Thank you. I feel like I'm going to buy these T-shirts and wear each one of them every other day. And it looks like people are already ordering these T-shirts. So this is great. I'm so happy. Here they are on the screen for all of you. Please purchase your T-shirt. I sound like an infomercial right now, but I am promoting the movement, right? The Southeast Asian Liberation Movement. So buy a T-shirt. And make sure that you're quoting our own leaders here, so you don't have to quote other people anymore. But I want to go back to this your description of the movement, because after we talk about the movement, I want to talk about you, right? And so we don't have any questions yet, but Chai, I want you to start this time. What was that awakening moment that made you come into this work? And in your bio, you said at 16 you were already doing this work, but intellectually, what happened to you? Why did you decide to love your community? Why did you decide to stay in New York City, which is, I think, a very beautiful city, but also a very rough city, and so rough and tough city. And so I sometimes see that in you, and that's what I love about you. But what was that awakening moment for you?
Rough and tough it is, sweet and loving all in one place. I can give all of that, Kaying, especially to you. And so, yeah, I think about, I don't think it started when I was 16. I think it started earlier than that. And I'll share this because as you all were putting the pictures of me that I didn't know you all had in the refugee camps, and so I want to say that, living in the I lived in 2 refugee camps before coming to the United States, into the Bronx. We were resettled in the Bronx. And if you all know, in the Bronx at that time, it was the war on drugs. There was, it was literally like going from one like war zone to another, in some sense, right? I don't want to use that term very lightly, but it was constantly being displaced, right? All the time. And so, and into our marginalized, disinvested community where we didn't have running water, we didn't have heat, and things like that. And so, so I remember, like, before coming to America, I remember this is the first time I felt injustice, and it was the first time I felt like where it was physically in my body. And it was like a few days, I think a week before, we saw our name on the announcement saying that we were going to be sponsored to America. And my mom got really excited. One, she permed my hair, thank God you don't have those pictures. And then they bought me like this amazing tracksuit, which I like wish I had still. And I remember being lined up with other families. And so before we came to the United States, we had to do a medical assessment. And you would think that, there was a dignified way to do this, but literally like all of us stood like 4 families naked. And so I remember like seeing my parent, like just like their sense of dignity and integrity completely taken away from them. And then I remember this instinctive cry and pain that I had in my stomach, that I was like, this is not right. Like, it was tremendously painful, and like I wanted to fight for them and justice, and for myself, not be treated like that. And so when I was growing up in the Bronx and doing organizing when I was 16, I always went back to my gut and remember what it felt like to have your dignity taken away from you. So in some sense, we probably were all born with it, right? And so but I always remember what that felt like and what injustice felt like at that moment. And so when I do door knocking, when I do organizing, or when I'm listening to our community stories or experience some kind of pain, I tap into that.
Thank you, Taya. That's what makes you so special, because we need to tap back into that, right? That love that we have in us. And so there are some questions, but I wanted to go to Zhong, and then I'll take a look at the question. But Zhong, what does social justice look like to you in the LGBTQ community, in our Hmong community?
Yeah, I think social justice, right? Or just in general, like, what is it exactly that we're trying to fight for, right? The queer folks. I think not just the queer folks, I think in general with anybody, right? Because I say this to other folks, like, the queer folks want the same thing y'all want to, right? We want to be able to live and to be able to move freely in our own, like, space, in our own relationships, in our homes, in our community, without there being violence, right? So for me, it's a lot of that, of like, just like how can we make sure that there's a space safe enough, right? For us to be able to move freely, to love freely, to be in our own space without fear, without consequences. And then also, I think with social justice, the one thing that I think has always been, took me over a decade, right? And a lot of support from Kazuo and M, who are like some of my greatest mentors, is the fact that the one thing that people don't talk a lot to you about with social justice is that social justice is not possible without the work of like deep healing and transformation from your own self. So for me, it's always been a lot around like, dang, like if I really want this for queer folks, if I really want us to be able to live freely, to love, and to not hurt anymore, I need to figure out what it is that's hurting me, and figure out what those things are. And yes, organize around it, dismantle it, whatever it is. And also whatever trauma there is, I need to make sure I'm taking care of that, so that when I'm doing this organizing work, it's not impacting me to the point where I cannot lead and I cannot talk about these issues and I cannot be present for people, especially, I think especially for queer and trans young people who are like really coming out right now and really seeking a space and seeking mentorship, is that I owe to them, I owe to myself, right? To be better and to be healthier. And that part of this social justice is really around like, how am I healing and transforming, and also creating that space of healing and transforming for our folks, so that we can really like be united and focus on dismantling these bigger issues around patriarchy and heteronormativity, heteropatriarchy, right, and racism. So those are things that for me, yeah, I guess to answer your question, social justice is really around those 2 points, healing and transformation, and also making sure that we can really live freely in our own bodies and space.
Thank you so much, Jean. I'm always learning so much from you and all of your colleagues in the LGBTQ movement. We do have a question from the audience. Did you have a time when love was not enough to move people along, and when you had to leave people behind? And anyone can take this question. And also, I want you to be able to speak to each other as well too, so you don't have to just answer my question. But if you heard something that
all on mic up, all
yeah, yes, and if you heard something that Chaya said that really resonated with you, please go ahead, and then I'll just throw in a few questions here and there. But the question right now on the table from Nancy is, did you have a time when love was not enough to move people along, and did you have to leave them behind? And when did you leave them behind?
Yeah, maybe I'll just start. I think that it's important for people to not conflate love for community to relationships where you like and where you have to, like be buddies and, BFFs and things, right? I think love for community is, I think, especially because so many of us came out of the gender-based violence movement, that, you have to love your community to do that work, because you see your brothers, you see your fathers, you see your uncles, and you're trying to transform that. You love them deeply, even though they are perpetrators of patriarchy and things like that. So it's not about like a relationship like that, which I think sometimes people confuse. Yeah, I think in movement work, you have struggles with each other all the time. But you have to have those movement struggles in order to make progress, right? And you should expect that. It's not like all of a sudden, because Kazuo and I call each other movement builders, that we're going to agree on the same strategies, right? Because we might pick very different strategies or tactics, but that should not mean that I should say, oh my goodness, I don't like her anymore, or we don't get along, or we always argue, or things like that. So I think sometimes conflating love for your community because to relationships where you get along and you like each other and all of those things is like those are two different things. So I think when we talk about love for community in movements, is because we don't want to throw anyone away, right? We know that you are not the worst act that you've ever committed. And that because you are born into our community, we love you. We believe in the potential of you, and we believe that you can transform yourself, but also that you can help us to build better. And so sometimes I think about it, and people think, like Kazuo said, they call us traitors in the community because we work gender-based violence, but really the advocates and organizers who work on gender-based violence love their communities the most, because who would take on those roles?
Yeah.
Call all kinds of names, be threatened, and be, if they didn't love their community, right?
Yeah.
Anyone else want to address this question about when you had to leave people behind because love was not enough? Well, you guys are like, I know
you all got stuff to say.
You guys are unfriending people on Facebook left and right. So is that what the question is addressing as well too? I know I'm, jokingly, but a lot of, this last year, there's been a lot of discussions, and we've been talking about that, and like Bo says, we're not conflating that, but it also is very painful, right? When someone that you respect and you love very much also reveals that their values are very different from you, right? You know what I mean? So I just wanted to throw that in. We have another really go ahead,
I'll answer that, and Sina's beautiful question of,
yes, I see that.
What does life, love, and liberation feel like for you when you get there? I think it's going to take a lifetime. I don't know if we're ever going to get there. I think when I felt most lost and most alone, I always look towards what does justice look like. And I've been on this road for a long time. I've been alone for a long time. I have lost many families. I've lost many friends. I started this journey by myself. I did not know if there were people who would be here with me or were even interested. And so in 1999, when I started, it was just me and a couple of people who actually believed. And along the way, they've left. They've gone on their own journey. I hope to meet again at the end, but that I have found a new family of people who are also looking for the same things. And so love is never going to be enough. And that's why I've chosen that the movement will be my first love, because people sometimes give up on you and don't have the same journey, but that the movement for justice and the movement for peace and the movement for liberation will always be true to you. And so that's been, I go back to what Zhong said. When I really felt free was when I was able to look at all of the unhealthy habits that I had, that was colonized in my mind as to how and who and how I should move and who I should be. That was the most restrictive. And when I started building this movement for myself, I said, these are the things that were taught to me, but these are the things that have held me down and have been very abusive and have been very controlling. And so it wasn't until I started working on myself and really letting those things go. And, so I feel like that's when I felt the most free. I have not found liberation yet. As you all know, we're still fighting for that. But along the ways, I've met, the loves of my life, which is all of you. And I feel like that has sustained my love for movement. So that for me.
Thank you, Kazuo. Taya or anyone else want to answer this question from Sina?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think this is, it is an easy and a hard question, because I know when I feel the most joy, right, is when I think what liberation can really look like, when I am free to choose, and when I am free to love, and when I'm free to be me. And that takes so many levels of, transformation, self, community, systems. And so, to Kajo's point, the work that we need to do is on all levels, every day, all day. Like, I walk in my house, I'm fighting patriarchy every day.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, that's real. And like, and we talk very openly about patriarchy and how it operates in our household. And I think that, there are moments where I'm like, I can't love you right now because you actually are practicing something very toxic, right? And then I also know that sometimes I can be toxic too, and so checking ourselves and each other. So like, for me, it's not that love that, not that love is not enough, but it's just every day, all day. Every aspect of it. My son walking in the house, and because I come home and the dishes are not done, and he's like, and his father, has been there all day, or he's like, patriarchy has walked into the house. Let's deal with
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
And so having those things, and like, I think about like what it means to teach our young men to like love us, right? So like, people all the time ask me like, what do you, how do you deal with patriarchy in our movement, and especially in the deportation work. Kaja, you remember this? Like, we had to like really come to term and have these deep conversations. And I think to the other questions, I think about like, the kinds of discussions we had to have internally within our community to like check our men, like we say. I remember in Cambodia, being in Cambodia in 2016, and like we were in a meeting, and then like the men were like getting really upset. We were like, this stuff happening, and so we were like, well, there's no way, like, unless you address patriarchy within yourself, like there's no way that like you're gonna come back and beat us. Like that just can't happen. Like, we're saving you, like all the queer folks and the women are here, and like you come back, like we gotta work on you too. So I think that love is it's every day, all day. And so I'll leave it at that. And so liberation feels like that, the work that you put into the men, the children, and the people you work with, you see transformation.
Thank you so much for both of you being very vulnerable and sharing your very personal experience with us. I think this is a great segue to the next question from Laura. Being in movement work for the long haul, what impact or transformations have you witnessed or experienced from your work that you are most proud of? Be specific. This is one of my questions as well too, so I'm glad Laura's asking. Why don't we go to Zhong?
Oh gosh.
Are you ready? If you're not ready, you can bounce it off to someone else.
I can try to start. So the biggest transformation that I have witnessed experience is I'm gonna go back. It's myself, right? I think it wasn't until I really like what Kasha said, when I really started to take an internal like look at myself, that I was actually and like really actively working and confronting whatever like toxicness I had, that I was actually able to show up and actually like hear people and receive information from people, right? That and I think that that's so important, because I think if we don't work on ourselves internally like that, then when we're showing up and trying to figure out what strategies are going to be best for moving our people and for protecting them and for fighting for power for them, is that if we don't work on ourselves, when we show up in these meetings, somebody's saying something, but we can't even receive it because we're hearing it as something completely different, right? And I think for a very long time, that was me. I came into the movement as a very, very, very angry kid. I'm still very angry, right? But I think it's a different type of anger now. And I had to really confront myself and say, like, in what ways am I being harmful, right? If I say I love Hmong women and girls, do I really love them if I'm still showing up in this way and I'm still like hurting these girls and women? If I'm showing up and I'm saying that I love queer and trans folks, but I'm showing up in these messed up ways, then actually like I'm not accomplishing anything, right? And I think one of the hardest thing is also around like this conversation around love is that our relationships are going to change with each other, right? But just because our relationships change with each other does not mean that I'm going to stop fighting for your life, right? It does not mean that I'm going to stop fighting for your life, because I see you, right? When I look at you, I see me, and I'm going to fight for you until the end, because if you're still hurting at the end, then I'm still hurting, and we're not going to get there, right? So I think it was really like this deep dive and look and like really see, like actually finally seeing my reflection in other people, and seeing that like, dang, like if I really want this, like I need to change myself, because again, right, if we're talking about social change and justice, there actually needs to be intentional healing and like dismantling of structures and systems, but also these things that we believe in, and like really transforming and living out the values that we want in this new world.
Thank you so much, Zhang. Very wise advice for me, but also that you admit that we have to go through an individual transformation before we can liberate and see what that liberation looks like for our community, right? That's really important. Does anyone else want to tackle this question as well too? Tell us something that you're very proud of, that you've been a part of, and that the impact that you made. I know you have a lot, but pick one.
I think I will just say that being able to see young people like Zhong and others who have come, who have really come out of a consciousness that isn't an intentionality to build a movement, right? It seems to have come because so many of the people before, but I feel a great sense of pride when I see all the young people, Laura, who asked the question, including you, being able to just like step up and to understand that you don't have to wait for anybody, right? And that you are interrogating all these systems of oppression that you are born into. You didn't have a choice to create that, but you were just born into it. And so I feel proud that we have built more than just for ourselves. And when I see this panel, I know that it represents the people who care more and about really sustaining both ourselves, but also the movement, right? Because we know the things we're trying to do, it's a world we've never lived in. True liberation and freedom and love. Well, that's not the world we live in, because we live in these really messed up power systems. And I think I'm just proud of how we have intentionally built that. The fact that we have Building Our Future, which now is really a global effort where we've been able to connect Hmong women, queer, trans folks, and some men to fight with us, right? To say, you don't have to accept what is. We can reimagine what should be and do better. So I feel really proud when I see all the young folks who are part of the journey with us in the movement. Mm-hmm.
I want to give Kazuo and Taya a chance to answer this question too, because I think it's really important, because sometimes we need to do some self-reflection. All this commitment, all these years of doing the work, what are the impact, right? What is the impact? So either one of you can go first.
I can go, and then Kazuo, you can go. Yeah, I mean, I'm listening and of course always learning. And so, and taking it all in, and, we're in our beautiful outfit. This was supposed to be my New Year outfit for last year, but I didn't get to wear it. So I am among queens tonight. So I decided to bring it out. All of y'all looking so good. But I think that, to young people, to my kids, like, that's the biggest impact. And so there is no to our youth organizer, to like even building Mekong, like we were young people before we were like executive directors and organizers and youth organizers, and so directors of campaign. I think about the Kamaran, the Kamarin, who, when we were doing youth organizing, and all of a sudden we're like building our own programs and building our own as much as possible, creating the world we can the most free world we can be in Mekong, right? And so every day they showed me that. I remember I had just given birth to Alicia, and I was in my deepest depression. I was like, I can't do it no more, you guys. Like, I'm done with the movement. And so heartbreaks happen so often in the movement, y'all. Love too, but heartbreaks too, right? And those are lessons. And so, and they were in my house every day. It was like, get your ass up, put on some clothes. We got to strategize. You got to think about how we're going to do this, how we're going to build Mekong. Like, and so I think about like, the impact is the lineage, or the I can visually see generations, that is going to be part of this change that we need to create. So maybe not in my lifetime, but maybe in Alicia's lifetime, maybe in Jalen's lifetime, maybe in Kaylee's lifetime, my kids, right? And so I want them to imagine that too, so that when they're raising their kids or their dogs or whatever it is they have, that they are thinking about how they create that pipeline, that dream, and that the vision of what is possible, right? And that, and for my husband and people and my uncles that I love so much, but also can hurt me so much too, right? So like, I need y'all to go do work with your men, and so do that. And also that I think Peng says this all the time, that, like we ask men in our community to like wake up and betray patriarchy every day, because sometimes they don't realize, and we don't even realize that because of them, we have to betray ourselves every day, right? As women, as girls, as queer folks. So, and so the impact of transformation, I feel like it's gonna take generation, but I see it in my kids. I see it in Kamrin, and Jean, and all of us. And so, so not in my lifetime, maybe, but maybe in theirs.
Thank you so much, Taya. Kazuo, you have the last word, and then we're going to do a round of closing remarks because we have 15 minutes left. So,
okay, so I'll do quick. being in movement work, long haul, what impact or transformation have you witnessed or experienced from your work? Okay. Not the most proud of, but last year I made a huge mistake. And I'm sharing this because I know people at Freedom Inc. love me and they would never share it. But I was being held accountable for a decision that I made that impacted the whole organization. And I made that decision based on how I was feeling. I made that decision based on, I thought that I loved my community and therefore I was saving my community and I was helping my community. But what I've learned about movement building is that saving your community, especially the toxic pieces of your community, is harmful to many other folks at Freedom Inc. And it took everybody to basically say, you fucked up and you did something harmful. And, it took me a long time to think about that. And it was a really hard time for me to be held accountable publicly and personally, and people telling me. And so when I came through that, I was able to say, you know what, nobody is above being held accountable. And so that was my biggest lesson. That was my biggest transformation. The other piece about transformation is that a lot of people are really afraid to tell me because I've learned everything from my own and I've struggled so much and people feel like maybe they can't tell me. But it's the young people who are like, no, I didn't like the way you spoke to me that way, or don't talk to me like that. And really showed me that, hey, like no matter how great of a leader you are, you're not above accountability. And so these are the transformative lessons that I've learned. And today I'm a better leader because and the other transformation that I learned is when you have some power, your mistakes can destroy communities. And so one of the things that I've learned about transformation is make powerful decisions, but tread lightly and think a lot. And at the end, love your people, and that the decisions at the end, hopefully you've not hurt people and harmed people to the point of no return. And so I always move with that.
Thank you, Kazuo. I think this is a good segue into the last question. Is really what advice do you give to other people? But I want to reframe it, like as Sheroes, representing many Sheroes out there, what are the 3 superpowers that you must have to become Sheroes, right? To join this club, to have a T-shirt made up for yourself. And for those of you who want Kazuo to design a T-shirt for you, put your name in the chat and give us a quote so that we can create more T-shirts, because the four here are not only the Sheroes in our community, we have a lot of Sheroes. And so one of the questions is, what are some advice you all have for queer youth who are getting into this work, but not just for queer youth, with everybody, right? And so like I said, I want to reframe that. What are the 3 superpowers that Shiro should have? So you can address that in any way you want. So why don't we begin with Zhong, and then we'll go around one more time, and this will be the end of our circle. Okay, so I wish we could never end, but our time is ending, and so we have to end. So Zhong, you go first, very briefly. Yeah.
Okay, I'll go really fast. So the 3, I'm like, it's just me. Okay, so the 3 superpowers, right? And I don't think it's just superpowers. I think everybody should have these things. Is you have to heal, right? And you have to heal with accountability. Because as we're doing this work, we're accountable to ourselves and we're accountable to our loved ones and our community and the movement. So you have to be healing with accountability. The third one, I would say, have fun and show up and be fabulous. I know it sounds silly, but I think with movement work, right? People I think we sometimes may lose sight. And I think movement work is not possible without our visionaries and our artists and our fabulous folks who show up looking however they want to and dressing in the most flamboyant ways, right? And then again, it is around breaking these norms. So do that, be you. And then the last one I would say is, be loud in your work, right? Whether that's you stepping up on the podium and making these speeches, or if that's you creating art, be loud and bold, right? People need to see and hear and feel what you are trying to put out for this new world, this new vision.
Thank you, Jean. How about Taya?
Oh goodness. So many things, but what I think about is and I think I lost this train of thought earlier, which is that like we are really resilient people, and all of us are, and a lot of us, and I think that resiliency isn't just the ability to bounce back, but for my people, and I want to share that gift with you all, is that it actually is a return to believing in each other and in humanity. And so I want to see that return for us all the time as part of our liberation movement. And so the second thing I would say is that like healing is really a lifelong process, right? And that we actually need justice now. And so if another community calls for justice, and to what Jean said earlier, is like be part of that call, like your life depended on it, right? So stand up for Black liberation, stand up for Khmer liberation, stand up for Vietnamese liberation and other communities, Indigenous communities liberation. And so if the call is there, go. And I think the last thing that I'll say is, y'all know we can be serious, we can be deep because we love our people, but the joy and laughter that comes in movement is where I find the most creativity among us. And so live in joy, find the little thing, whether it's sending, I send Kim and Sochi pictures of crazy things all the time, like makes me laugh. And like sharing those things with each other, right? Not just like our vision on and like what it looks like in a liberated world, what the strategy is, but that those little moments of joy, like celebrate them, and then the little wins or the big wins that we have, celebrate every win, whether it's getting someone to returned from Cambodia, getting a case, whatever it is, that we need to celebrate every moment, because it just feels so much closer when we celebrate and find joy in our victory. Kajing, you muted. So I think Kajra's.
Thank you, Taya. It sounds like we need a second, T-shirt already, Kazuo, because there are so many like nuggets of like wisdom in both Zhong and Taya's comments. So, Bo, how about you? And I'll let Kazuo close us out since this is her event. Yeah.
Yeah. I would say don't dwell on your mistakes, right? I think that we are human. It's good to be accountable, but also we are not our worst mistakes. And I think many of us have maybe sometimes small, maybe big mistakes, but if you dwell on it, you're going to feel like you don't want to keep doing stuff. So I would just say that's important. The other thing is just try anyway. I often feel that people have good ideas or they want to do something, but they feel like, maybe they're not the right person or they don't have the right terminology or those kinds of things. But, the world that we want to live in, that is just, that is equitable, that is liberated and free and without judgment, that doesn't yet exist. And that means that nobody has the right answer. And so it's really up to all of us to act every day with intention. And we need more actors, right? More doers. I think maybe the last thing is really just that we have to build with others and bring other people with us. There are people who came before us and whose shoulders we stand on, but also there will be people after us. And so if we are not building it with other people and we think that it's just us, then, how could we truly be transformative? So I will just add those things.
Gajwa, you can answer this question and then maybe close us out, because I know that this is only one of many events that's coming up this whole month. And so I want to say that the reason I asked this question is also, that old saying that, we have to believe in the power of intention. And when you are very clear about starting your goal, stating your goal, the world does rise up and, conspire to meet all of us. And so part of it, of sharing this show and this Shiro, is that we have Sheroes among us all over the place. If we're not intentional about celebrating them and showing gratitude, then we will continue to be experiencing the injustice that we are experiencing now. And so those are my concluding word, but I want you to have the last word to say, what is your advice, and what should we be looking forward to in the next month or so?
Okay. So I want to say, I think to have like some of my super Shiro powers, or my superpowers are, I really do believe that we have the power to create a new world that we want to live in. Culture is not static, it's ever changing. When those who are leading have failed you, I want you to be fierce enough to create new moral compasses for everybody to follow. I think superpowers are, I want to be smart. You should be smart and wise like Bo. Be forgiving and fierce like Chaya. And be bold and fight for your own healing like Zhong. And be principled and honest and powerful like Gayeng. And I've learned so much from all of you. I think that the thing I want to say to you all is, what I really meant to do with the Shiro project, is we don't need to look for somebody to come save us. And in fact, we may wait a whole lifetime for that. And so we get to create our own Sheroes, and we get to be those ordinary, everyday Sheroes. And so this project is about that. And I think for every Southeast Asian little girl, young woman who's out there, you get to be a hero and a Shiro and a leader for not just your people, but for all of our people. And so this is kind of that. My superpowers are, yes, creating a world I want to live in. And I do, like when I dream about something, I put in the work. Just to make it happen. And so Gayeng's very right about that. And the reason why I've chosen, and we're going to choose more Southeast Asian Sheroes to follow, is because I really do believe all of you are movement, and at the heart of everything, that I do love movement, and movement has always been my first love. And so I hope that this is not the last. If you're not Hmong or Khmer, or if you're not Southeast Asian and you're listening to this, may there be new T-shirts for you to wear, and new stories for you to follow, and new Southeast Asian feminists that are fierce, that are leading, that are innovative, and that are powerful and unafraid. And so I want you to learn about each one of us, because I feel like we've put in the work. And you should see us as Sheroes, as we see ourselves, and we're learning to see ourselves, and as our communities have come to learn to love us. So that's where I want to leave you all.
Thank you very much to all the panelists, all the tech people behind the scenes. And there is one more event coming up, right? And so I don't know who's going to announce that, but Zhong, maybe you can tell us the date. And so with that, I just want to thank you for allowing me to be a part of this circle. It's such a great honor, and I'm really humbled by all of it. I've learned so much over the years, but even tonight, I am always constantly learning. So thank you so much. Do you want to put a plug in for the next event, Zhong?
Yes, can I? Yeah. Thank you so much, you all, for sharing. Thank you, Gayeng. Everyone, if you have not yet, please like Freedom Inc.'s Facebook page. Throughout this month, we're going to be continuing to highlight amazing Southeast Asian folks who have made huge contributions to the Southeast Asian liberation movement. Next year, we are highlighting our gender justice warriors. And we'll be having another live panel on that Friday, March 12th, same time, 7 p.m. Central Time, and it will be moderated by Kazuo. And we're gonna have a whole another 4 amazing folks that you all should tune in to really learn about the work that they're doing to fight for gender justice.
Well, good night, everyone.
Bye, y'all. Until soon.
Yeah.
Bye.